Jelly Trumpet!
Odd ear, Mr. B.
What?
Oh, it's a typo. I should be saying, oh dear, Mr. B. Amazing what you find in a script, eh?
Yes, it is. Reading is so hard these days.
So I should be saying to you at this point, oh dear, Mr. B.
What have you done?
It appears the characters I've written, they appear to be quite real.
That goes to explain Nigel then.
What?
Him.
Mr. B, that's a squirrel the size of a St. Bernard dog.
Yes, it is, isn't it? Hello, Nigel. Are those bongos?
Well, that's all we need, a giant bongo-playing squirrel. Mr. B, do something. What's that?
Acorns.
Are they organic?
Yes, they're organic.
Where did he come from?
You must remember. You wrote Nigel and his drum solo into Jelly Trumpet Episode 1, Season 1. Remember now?
Oh, I remember. Hang on. One moment. I didn't write him with bongos and the size of a St. Bernard.
Stranger and stranger.
Well, let's hope his nuts keep him quiet.
Perhaps we could modify his instrument repertoire.
What? Oh, very good, Mr. B.
I'll make some coffee.
Excellent. Well, we'll sort this out later. We should start the show now. Mr. B, the button. Not that one!
Welcome to Jelly Trumpet, the world's only comedy podcast about creativity. Jelly Trumpet makes you more creative with tips, tricks and ideas for expanding your imagination. Especially good for business people wanting to be creative online. In this episode, a checklist for being more creative called the 9 Trumpets of Creativity. Our third trumpet is Modify, all about transforming your ideas. Challenge at Home, a creative exercise for you to try at home. And Challenge Jim, where Mr. B challenges Jim with an exercise in creativity. Plus, a brand new micro sitcom called The Startup, with our hero Mary, the entrepreneur, starring in an episode titled The Business and Yoga Coach, Part 1, Part 2 later. And our very special guest will take part in Interview Countdown, 12 questions in 12 minutes. 9 Trumpets of Creativity. Our third trumpet is Modify.
This season on Jelly Trumpet, we're talking about the 9 Trumpets of Creativity. It's a list of 9 different tools for being more creative. Last episode, we talked about the second trumpet, Adapt. This episode, Trumpet 3, Modify. Sounds simple, because it is. There's a PDF of all 9 Trumpets of Creativity, which you can download from the Jelly Trumpet website. We adapted this list of creative tools from Osborne's checklist, also known as Scamper. Why have we adapted the list? Because being creative means changing stuff, not accepting the first thing that comes into your head, unless it's brilliant. Why have we adapted the list? Because being creative means changing stuff, not accepting the first thing that comes into your head, unless it's brilliant. If you've listened to Season 1, you'll remember we talked a lot about keeping a journal of what helps you to be creative. We called the journal Your Medicine. The idea is you build up your own tool chest of ideas, the journal becoming your creative coach. So here we go with number 3 in 9 Trumpets of Creativity. Modify. Modify can work in so many ways. You can use modify when you think you have a block or just to get a particular effect you want. I was stuck on a scene once in a play I was writing called Italian Bob. I had multiple characters and an idea. The idea was to use a wood plank for some visual comedy. I was stuck on this for days because I was trying to work out which character could meet which other character. Then I modified the question. Not who can meet who, but how can I make this funny? Then I added the characters. Brevity is the soul of... So if you finished that line, you modified a listener's behaviour and created engagement. You modified it by a negative action. You can modify by just changing one thing, a colour, the speed, a shape. In online marketing, you may read about conversion optimization. Years ago, you used to read about websites modifying the colour of a button and conversion to sales increased by 80%. Rubbish, of course. But here's something more useful for conversion. Microcopy around a button, e.g., free delivery over £20. Modify the microcopy and test. In performing, like in TV shows, a huge difference can be made by modifying one element. If you remember the first series of Blackadder, Edmund was a creep. In the second series and beyond, he was ambitious, venal and confident, an underdog of lower status. Well, that's more than one modification, but it was one element, the character. If you're a fan of the Big Bang Theory, check out Sheldon's voice in Season 1 versus subsequent seasons. A subtle but important modification that deepened the character and improved the comic delivery of that actor's lines. The takeaway. Perhaps ask yourself, what one thing can I modify that will make a significant difference? That is focusing on a minor change that radicalises the original idea. Well, I'm glad Nigel has put his bongos away. Oh, and Mr. B,
Yes, Mr. Jim.
I suggest we try again to return our passenger to her own time.
Queen Eleanor of Aquitaine? I know, I'm working on the buttons now.
What I don't understand is when we started Jelly Trumpet, we never had any problems. Now the podcast seems to travel at will through time, space and multiple types of media.
Experiment, Mr. Jim? I mean coffee, Mr. Jim?
Now I remember. You and your experiments.
Oh, arrête les querelles!
Is that Eleanor with Nigel?
Yes, she appears to have him in a headlock.
Well, I suppose we'll just have to carry on with your experiments till we get Eleanor back to medieval France.
Yes, I've remapped F12 to F8 and added a larger steam valve.
J'ai dit arrête les querelles!
I think he doesn't understand French, Your Majesty.
I said stop it, squirrel!
When did Eleanor start speaking English?
I gave her an iPad and a copy of that Babel language app last episode.
She's picked that up quick. Oh well, Mr. B, the button if you please. Oh dear, that's not St Albans.
It could be.
Could be, eh? That looks like some blasted heath up north. You know, the ones found in romantic fiction.
Oh look, Ramblers!
It's definitely not St Albans.
I bet it's close.
Closer than Love Island? Where you landed the podcast last episode?
Definitely.
Oh no.
It's just 4 Ramblers. We can ask them in for a coffee. They look very cold.
I know who they are.
Do you?
They look very sad. Check. They're expressing torment. Check. They are wearing early 19th century clothing, and we're on a blasted windswept moor.
What are they?
Brontes, Mr. B, Brontes. You've landed us in Bronte country.
I'll clean the keyboard and have another attempt at St Albans.
If you would, Mr. B, before they start howling in anguish, setting fire to the vicarage and generally being miserable. How about taking us somewhere warm where we can have a great coffee?
On it.
Isn't that Watford?
Yes, but it is August.
Oh, it'll do.
Challenge at home.
I love editing. I'm also rather forgetful about what I've written, which is another pleasure. Spending words. How few words can you use to get a point across? Try this. Take a piece of writing, a blog post, a social post, a web page, a chapter in your book, a sketch or play, and see how well you can capture the meaning, the intent, the call to action in 140 characters, the old character limit for Twitter. We talk about audiences a lot in the creative world, and we see an audience as a whole. In digital marketing, we segment the audience to make our message more personal and appealing. So now, have a think about the different types, segments in your audience. Pick 3 different types, or you could call them persona. Write your 140 characters tweet for each different persona. How much language did you have to modify? Now go back to your original piece. What can you remove? What can you add? Can you make the piece shorter and spend less words? The takeaway: enjoy your work, and if you have the time to think about how much editing you can do for yourself, spend less words and make more meaning. In writing, you must kill your favourite children, said William Faulkner. Don't get hung up on that precious phrase, all that special idea. If it doesn't fit, cut it. I have a list of my favourite children. Ideas that I go back to now and then. It's like a compost heap. Sometimes years later I find a place where they belong. Hello?
I think we're back in St Albans.
One moment. Huzzah!
Huzzah!
Yes, I have a bank account.
One thing,
One moment. Yes, Mr. B?
it's raining.
Oh, is that all? I'd love to give you my bank details and take advantage of this windfall from a Nigerian prince such as yourself.
Stop it, Nigel!
Is that a scam call, Mr. Jim?
Yes, it is. Hello, caller. No. 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 Thank you, Prince. I'm just going to hand you over to the account holder. His name is Nigel. Thank you, Nigel.
You are welcome, Mr. Jim.
Eh?
The Startup, a micro sitcom. Meet Mary, the entrepreneur, going about creating a new business online. The scene, an empty office. In this episode, Mary the entrepreneur meets Ryan, a combined business coach and yoga teacher. Yoga and business planning in the same session.
Come in, why don't you?
I'm not sure I'm in the right place.
Ah, you must be Mary.
Are you Ryan?
Ryan Pickles. But I don't, if you know what I mean.
No.
Oh. Let's get started then.
I just wanted to check that this is active yoga and business coaching for the elite.
Yes, let's start with Downward Dog. That's a perfect pose.
I'm told you can help me reach the elite stage of business success.
What do you want out of your business?
Success, money, a lifestyle, and a 6'2" surfer.
Wrong.
Pardon?
Now, salutation to the sun, first position.
I've brought my business plan.
First mistake.
Why?
You must be the business plan. Just be. Second position, upward salute.
Is that a cat?
Ah, that's Blossom. She's a Maine Coon, possibly the largest cat in the UK.
She is big. I wanted to know what to do next for my online business.
Third position, standing forward bend.
Ryan, could you explain what we're doing?
Y-E-T.
Yet?
I'll tell you in a minute. Blossom, that tickles.
End of part 1. Part 2 of The Startup later. Creative rituals.
In Season 2, we're highlighting a book called Daily Rituals by Mason Curry. It's full of short essays about the rituals creative people have used in their lives. In this episode, Federico Fellini, the Italian filmmaker, famous for such films as La Dolce Vita, 8.5 and La Strada. Fellini said he never slept more than 3 hours a night. He got up around 6 o'clock and tried to make himself a decent cup of coffee. Then he'd wander around outside for some fresh air. At 7, he'd be on the phone organising his filmmaking. What I like about this ritual is he was always struggling to make a good cup of coffee. Fellini liked the sociability of filmmaking. He said a writer can do everything by himself, but he needs discipline. He has to be alone in a room with a white sheet of paper. I'm too much of a vitellone for that. Vitellone meaning bullock. He also said, I love the precious combination of work and living together that filmmaking offers. The takeaway, what does your morning look like? Can you make a decent cup of coffee? We all need our rituals to spark our creativity. What are yours? Are they working for you? Do you need to create some new ones? What is interesting about Fellini is that he was a writer but became a filmmaker because he was a social sort. Can you work on your own? Is it good for you? Or would you prefer the sociability and collaboration of working with others?
Coming up, interview countdown. Challenge Jim. Mr. B will issue Jim a challenge. And list of the week. Sponsored by Conversion Detectives, the really creative digital marketing agency. Search Conversion Detectives.
Right, Mr. B, is there something you wish to tell me?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Absolutely sure?
Yes.
Not an iota of doubt in your mind?
Not a jot.
That's all right then. Don't let it happen again.
I won't.
Aha! I thought as much. What have you done?
I bought you a cake.
How lovely! What flavour is it?
Heckles.
Heckles?
Yes, try some.
Reminds me of...
Get off! You're useless! Rubbish! We want our money back!
Do you like it?
I prefer a applause cake.
Mind you, applause is quite fattening.
That explains much.
Interview countdown.
Well, hello, welcome to another episode of Jelly Trumpet. With us today is Sita Brand from Settle Stories. Well worth checking out, and I've joined their networking initiative as well. So, Sita, thank you for coming. I'm going to go through the 12 questions in 12 minutes. So, question number 1. What is your business?
Settle Stories. We are an arts and heritage charity based in the Yorkshire Dales, and we run the Yorkshire Festival of Story, which is the world's largest online storytelling festival, as well as just recently launched a new online learning platform.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the online platform?
Yes, Storyversity. So Storyversity is our new online learning platform where we can teach you how to master the art of storytelling so you can make a difference. My passion in the world is trying to transform the world through story. And that helps. That's one way of helping us do it.
Yes, fascinating. I've had a quick look at it. I will be checking it out even more. So, question number 2. We're going well. We're under time.
You never know how long you've got, really.
No, I didn't even get to that stage. So, right, number 2. This is one of my favourite questions. Who is your creative hero or heroine?
I found this really hard to answer because there are so many people that I am really inspired by. Some of them are creative and some of them are kind of cultural heroes. So the people who come to mind are Maya Angelou, because I just love her poetry. Sylvia Plath, also because I love her writing as well. Peter Brook, the theatre director.
Yep.
And then what might seem kind of off the wall, Oprah Winfrey. So Oprah Winfrey is not your typical, creative practitioner, in that she's not, an artist or a theatre director or something. But I love the way she interviews people. I love the way that she so gently brings things out of her audiences and makes them feel comfortable. And she also represents for me a sense of power and joy and sensitiveness.
Lovely. That's a nice, interesting mix. Perhaps we'll come back to that. So we're going on to question 3, which is one that always bugs me because I always start differently. So how do you start a creative project?
Differently for each one. But I suppose the key thing is I tend to jump with both feet in first. I don't do lots of thinking beforehand before I want to do something. That said, I do have to in the context of running a charity, but my initial instinct is to go, okay, we're going to make a podcast, right? Let's just get the equipment. Let's just go do it. Let's just go with it, see what happens. Oh, I'm going to do a show, and this has happened to me more than one occasion where I'll have advertised the show. I'm going to do a storytelling show. The publicity's gone out. I've got a title. I've got some vague idea. No idea what the show is. And a week beforehand, I got to get it together. And I guess I really work well under that kind of pressure. I'm firing with ideas all the time. I can't stop myself. So the problem is about not so much as starting projects, but probably finishing them.
I can see that. Now, which sort of leads us on to a sort of relevant question, which is, I've tried to ask you this, and how do you know when the project is finished?
Well, I don't know projects are ever really finished, except when you don't want to do them anymore.
Right.
Because or obviously when you're running a festival, you know that the festival has ended. So there's the last day, last event, you go to sleep, and obviously then it's ended. But actually the concept of running a festival, at what day will you say, or which year will you say, well, I'm not going to run it again anymore? I think it's when you don't feel like you're having any more fun. I'm having a load of fun. So I'm doing all the things that I really enjoy doing because I'm working with people whom I love, and it's all related to stories and storytelling. So, but I can't help but keep on having other ideas. And so I've always got lots, as I said before, on the go. So I think really a project's finished when you just don't want to do it anymore.
I think that's a lovely way of summing it up. I've never thought about it like that. It's just because I always want to tinker. So, this is another one of my favourite questions. What's the best thing someone has said to you that kept you going when it was a struggle?
Well, there's lots of times when things have been a struggle, and I think probably the best thing is been you can do it, really. Having faith in yourself. I know that when I've found things the most challenging and I can't see a way out, I have several mentors that I go to and have a chat, and they always bolster my confidence. And I think that's the thing is, you know, I suffer from imposter syndrome, don't we all?
Yes.
And so I think it's when people bolster my confidence and go, yes, you can do it, then that's probably the most helpful thing that keeps me going. It's that feeling of lack of confidence and not knowing, and that's the thing that needs the support.
Yes, I agree with that. Thank you for that. Wow, so here we go. Question number 7. Are you honest with yourself?
Well, I certainly try to be honest with myself. I guess sometimes I kid myself into thinking I can take on more than I really can. You know, I've just got a huge amount on at the moment, and someone rang me and they said, would you be interested in being a trustee and you know, have a conversation? I am going to have a conversation, but you know, my immediate response is yes, when actually it probably should be no, because I've got too much on. So I think I am honest with myself in that I know my strengths and weaknesses, but I have an expectation of myself of how much more I can fit in a day, which is probably unreal. I remember a very short story. I remember giving a talk years ago, and I was asked at the end of it saying all the things I'd done. And the first question was, when do you sleep? That's the thing I have to remember.
Yes, that's always.
Not taking on too much.
So I think you are honest with yourself, which is I'm glad to hear. Now, what's the proudest you've ever been of one of your ideas?
Well, I suppose the two things, I've got 3 things I'm really proud of. I'm really proud of having taken the Settle Stories Festival to become a digital festival online as Yorkshire Festival of Story and draw in the many people around the world to enjoy it. The second thing I'm really proud of is a project that we're working with young people using story and mindfulness that's really made a big impact on their lives in terms of personal change, transformation, allowing them to build up their own sense of resilience and strength, because that has real lasting impact. And the third thing that I'm growing to be proud of is Storyversity, which I've mentioned briefly, because I'm hoping that's going to be a repository for, you know, really interesting resources and conversations for the future, as well as a chance for everyone to learn the best they can be.
Yeah, it's a fantastic platform, I must say. It's very beautifully produced and very professional. So what's your next project?
Well, I'm still in Storyversity, so I kind of consider this as my next project. And Storyversity is a platform which is all about mastering the art of storytelling so you can make a difference. And we've got lots of different courses, and we're going to be releasing some more soon. It's aimed at artists, storytellers, and educators. And it's a way self-directed courses. And we've just started last week. We started these weekly live practice sessions. So people who are learning can have a space to come and test out their story presentation or whatever, get some feedback as they continue with the courses. And I think it's a way in which I hope that in the future will not only help to make Settled Stories more sustainable through the income generation model, but also it's a space where many artists and facilitators, presenters will also be able to contribute and get work And the more that you can pay artists, the better, I think.
I agree 100% with that. Now, should creativity be taught as a skill in schools?
Well, I would say absolutely. But I think it's like, I've been pondering, how do you teach creativity and what's the thing that you do? And I think the key is actually about having access to and participation in a range of creative pursuits and artistic pursuits. And I think one of the challenges we all face is the cut in arts funding means that this is more difficult. But actually, the more we have that investment and that intrinsic development of the arts and also the participation in the arts, it helps people to be more creative, more innovative, to find solutions to problems that they didn't see possible, because they can make things go together in ways they could never have imagined. And we do that by actually developing divergent thinking, and doing that using the arts is one of the best platforms that you can use.
Lovely. That's a lovely summation. I agree with you totally there. Now, this is a hypothetical question, number 11. If a 10-year-old asks you what one thing would make me more creative, what would you reply?
Read and listen to fairy tales, and read and listen to more fairy tales. As Einstein said, if you want your child to be intelligent, read them fairy tales. And if you want them to be more intelligent, read them more fairy tales. And I do believe that. I think that what fairy tales and folk tales give you for the world of the imagination, to help you see things in different ways, to overcome challenges, nightmares, difficulties. I was in a school last week, and you ask the children what story do they want to hear. They want to hear a frightening story. They want to hear a ghost story. We all want it. It's like going to a horror film, but we like it when it's okay in the end. It's how do we overcome our fears? And folk and fairy tales are the best way to do it.
I like that as well. Stories always work. Now, number 12, you've unlocked the bonus question, so there'll be another one after this. But for the listeners, how can a listener get in touch with you and Settle Stories?
Our best way is either via the website, settlestories.org.uk, or we're on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, all at Settle Stories. Either that, or to get in touch with me via Sita Brand, again on all those platforms. So really look forward to hearing from someone.
I do hope so. Now, bonus question we're going to ask you, because we discussed this previously. That's a disclaimer. What's something no one knows about you?
Well, despite being a vegetarian, Zen practicing, yoga practicing, nature lover, I really, really love fast cars.
Oh, brilliant.
Actually, I'm a petrol head, and the one thing I want to do is to drive a Formula One.
Oh my God, yes.
I can't wait to be behind that wheel and put my foot down.
Yeah. That's a different experience, isn't it? Well, this has been most delightful. We're going to stick to the 12 questions in 12 minutes scenario, because my editor will otherwise beat me around the head with some celery. So we'll stop. We'll leave it there, and just like to thank you very much for a very enlightening conversation. So, Sita Brand from Settle Stories, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. It's been wonderful.
Isn't it time for Challenge Jim?
It's Challenge Jim time.
What?
I told Nigel he could have a solo. He's been a very good boy.
Has he?
Yes, he helped me mend the window. Fancy a nut?
Not now, B. Podcaster doing all that.
Come along, Nigel. I've got some leftover cake for you.
While you're at it, see if there's any coffee from the coffee machine.
Mort. Dead.
What?
If you remember, Her Majesty Queen Eleanor of Aquitaine threw our second coffee machine out of the window in the last episode.
Et voila!
Thank you, Eleanor.
I could murder a latte. Perhaps we could buy another coffee machine and do something so it's not hacked by Russian troll factories.
OK, I'll work on that.
Use the Gubbins computer thing inside the machine to make coffee and do something else useful, perhaps.
Very well, Mr. Jim. And now...
Challenge Jim!
Each episode, we challenge Jim with a creative exercise.
I'm ready, Mr. B.
The challenge this episode, Mr. Jim, is you have 1 minute to pitch a story involving a giant squirrel.
Well, Nigel,
Yes.
Okay, Game of Nuts.
Go.
Game of Nuts, it would be an epic. There would be houses of grey squirrels, there'd be houses of red squirrels, we'd find another colour squirrel, and the grey squirrels would have walnuts, and the red squirrels would have hazelnuts.
And road safety techniques?
And yeah, they could do that, but as long as they leave their bongos behind.
Mm-hmm.
And then what would happen, what the story arc would go and go and go, and they'd all be talking about it in the first 3 seasons about the tree surgeon is coming. The
30
tree
seconds.
surgeon is coming. And that would be, like, the tree surgeon, what are we going to do?
Hide
Where
your
are we
nuts.
going to hide our nuts? Yeah, we're going to have to hide them, and we're going to pile them up here. And then we'll steal all the nuts from the other squirrels.
Will there be any betrayal?
Well, of course, because that's what squirrels are famous for.
Yeah. Dragons?
No,
10 seconds.
that'd be silly. And then what would happen would be that the
5
winter
seconds.
would come.
4,
Winter would come, and
3,
they'd all fall
2,
asleep.
1.
So it's quite a short story, really.
Tony's word of the episode. Exponentially.
Thank you, Tony. The definition of which is, I've forgotten.
Rubbish.
It's not as if anyone is going to use the word.
What have you got against the Brontes, Mr. Jim?
Nothing. Well, actually, quite a lot.
Go on.
The bleakness of the windswept world. Everyone dies or goes mad or marries someone wrong, and then really bad things start to happen. Mad people locked in the attic, status-obsessed clergy. It's tragedy, Mr. B, and you know how much I like a laugh.
I know what you mean. Reminds me of Watford.
Steady.
But it does.
This should do it.
What are you doing?
Writing your next line.
Coffee, Jim? I can send Queen Eleanor around the corner.
Yes, let's have some more coffee. Is she safe out on her own?
Bien sûr.
And shall we do a podcast?
Yes, let's do a podcast.
And an experiment.
And an experiment?
A small one.
Go on then, you little tinker.
It would be very interesting to see if I used a Japanese keyboard, the new steam valve and the Jelly Trumpet special juice. What would happen, I wonder?
I'm not sure about that, Mr. B. Hey, what happened there?
I turned the sound effects off.
You can't do that. Wait. Coffee, Mr. B?
Eleanor won't be long.
Tales from Jim's Medicine Journal.
I've been to a lot of writing and performing workshops. I've read a lot of books about creativity and writing for stage, for TV, etc. You're always going to learn something. You're always going to forget something, so it is useful to have your notes in a searchable format. Word does all right for search, but I use Evernote, the note app. That has a great search function. As a creative, the only reason to learn a rule is so that you can confound it. The rule of 3 is a fab one to start with. If you think of all the 3s we have in literature, film, etc. I was thinking 3 little pigs, 3 musketeers. Only there were 4 musketeers in the end. No, this isn't going well. In effect, you have a pattern you can break to surprise and delight the audience. Friends, Romans and donors, lend me your liver. A play is usually 3 acts. Set-up, complication, resolution. Films use it. And why not use it in a Facebook advertising campaign or a proposition video? A priest, a vicar and a rabbit walk into a bar. I'm sure I'm a typo, says the rabbit. You can also use 3s in dynamics. It's quite common in sitcoms to have 3 essential types. Child, animal, machine. So in Father Ted, the child is Dougal, the animal is Father Jack, and Ted is the machine. The machine in this case is his obsession with being famous and rich, unlike your normal priest. Have a think of the 3s you use. How can you make them different in what you do? You know what we need, Mr. B?
What, Mr. Jim?
We need our own group of supervillains.
What, Jelly Trumpet villains?
Yes, Jelly Trumpet supervillains.
What would they do?
Well, they could help us rid the world of evil.
Doesn't that rather negate them as villains?
Oh, I see what you mean.
I have an experiment to do, you know.
Might require some thought. I like the idea, though.
You should stop trying to make everyone happy. You're not tequila.
Fantastic! I wish I had a kitten. I call her Sharon. Our micro sitcom, The Startup Part 2. Maybe the entrepreneur is having a combined yoga and business planning session.
YEG. Yoga Endeavour Therapy, YET for short, which has another meaning, doesn't it? Up until now, eh? Now is the change. This moment, we must grasp it. Blossom. Position 4. Low. Lunge.
What happened?
Nothing. Well, Blossom, she's a lovely cat, but gets a little bit jealous. And she's, made herself known down below.
Can I help?
Not unless you have a syringe full of morphine. Position 13.
I thought there were only 12 positions in salutation to the sun.
It's one I've invented to take my clients to elite levels. Now stand up straight, like you have a string attached to the top of your head. Good. Now hold out your hands, palm upward. Great.
Position 13 is?
We accept.
Is this right?
Yes, that will be £330 plus VAT.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ryan.
My assistant will take payment, same time next week.
And what will I get for my money, Ryan?
I'll tell you the first of 13 secrets of YET.
Cool.
Sign up for all 13 sessions today and save £20. OK, for you, £30.
Oh, I don't know how to thank you, Ryan.
It's nothing.
Be the business plan. Be the business plan. Be the business plan. Be the business plan.
Where's Eleanor?
She should be back from the shops by now.
Ici, your coffees. Un latte pour Monsieur B et un Americano for the writer.
The writer?
Stop it, Nigel.
That told him.
Yes, in perfect English. She is coming along.
Bit patronising there, Mr. Jim.
My apologies, it was. I will try harder. What do you think of our idea of a group of supervillains for Jelly Trumpet, Your Majesty?
Good.
Your Majesty, why have you a bundle of kindling and some firelighters under your arm?
In case.
In case of what?
Witches.
When I make a small sacrifice, I forego a second chocolate eclair.
I can sacrifice some sleep for a good book.
Nigel. See what I've got.
Do you smell burning, Mr. B?
I do. Eleanor, no!
List of the week!
This week, things I do to avoid writing. Number 1, empty the dishwasher. Number 2, clean my desk. Number 3, is the heating on? Number 4, look out the window. Is that an Ocado van? Number 5, I'll just text my lovely daughter. Number 6, did I miss something on Facebook? Number 7, you know what? I fancy another coffee. Number 8, look out the window. That's a nice doggy. Number 9, just going to doodle for a bit. Number 10, look out the window. It is an Ocado van. I've also been is that burning I smell?
It's okay. Nigel was only singed, and I've made Eleanor a chalice of Frappuccino. I've also hidden the kindling and the firelighters.
Excellent. We don't want any sacrifices in our podcast. What's Queen Eleanor doing now?
I've given her a book about, a book.
What sort of book, Mr. B?
A green one.
About?
The Art of Happiness by the Dalai Lama should keep her...
Perhaps start her with something easy, like some ABBA lyrics.
Ways of seeing!
Where do you do most of your work? In an office? In the spare bedroom? The dining room table? Change where you work and change what you see. Better still, treat yourself. Visit a coffee shop. Take a notebook and pen. Use your phone if you must, and just sit. Have you ever just sat with yourself? Watch the world go by. Do any of your projects come to mind? How do you see them now at this different place? How do you think that person walking by sees your work? It's easy to forget that our lives, including our creative world, is a pattern. If it's working, don't change it. Change your location, change the way you look at the world, just for a bit.
Jim's work offer.
I've loads of work that I'd like to see be produced. If you're lacking in a short play, well then, can I suggest one I wrote called Dream Drill? It's about a man who steps into his own head and finds himself in the middle of an argument with two sides of his mind. It's silly, and it involves some juggling and noses that light up. piece for 3 performers and around 15 minutes. Email me, jelly@jellytrumpet.com, if you would like to have a read, and let me know if you want to put Dream Drill on. Thank you.
Join us in further episodes and be more creative. Pick up tips and tricks you can put in the play instantly. Try exercises to boost your imagination. Listen to creative guests. And a whole lot of what we call fun. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions or ideas for Jelly Trumpet, email us jelly@jellytrumpet.com. That was Jelly Trumpet, making you more creative with Jim Kinlock and Mr. B. Sponsored by Conversion Detectives, the creative digital marketing agency. Search Conversion Detectives.
And now here's We Paint Houses with their song Save Me.
Hear the clock, it's ticking, and I can't wait. Sit alone, I'm singing, just wondering what's my fate. I hold this mirror, but it's broken in my hand. Another voice is screaming, and it doesn't understand me. Save me from myself. 'Cause I can't live my life like this now. Save me from myself. 'Cause I can't live like this anymore.
It's time to say the thank yous, Mr. Jim. Oh, a question.
Yes, Mr. B?
Can I experiment with CMAC?
CMAC?
The coffee machine. C machine.
Something useful then. You know, as long as it doesn't get hacked by the Russians, the Chinese, or the Cornish. Just make it useful, adaptable. You know, make it save lives.
Will do, Mr. Jim, or should I say, will do, Mr. Writer.
Kind. A question for you is, why is Tony not wearing any trousers? And why are his legs painted with yellow stripes?
He has a fear of being parked on.
Oh, I see. Thank you for listening. Thank you for all those that encouraged Jelly Trumpet. Thank you to Mr. Tony for the voice work. Thank you to Miss Claire, the voice of Queen Eleanor and Mary the Entrepreneur. And thank you, Mr. B and Kel. Stay fab.